Hi, welcome to the show. This show is called Let's Talk because I love talking to people and finding out all about their stories, where they came from, how they ended up in East Hampton, or how their families years ago ended up in East Hampton, whatever the story is. I think everybody has interesting stories. Today, my guest is Michael Clark. Michael is actually the director here at LTV, and I think he's a really interesting guy. So I want to share him and his story with you today. Thank you, Mike, for being here and
Thank you for having me.
agreeing to sit down with me for a little interview. I don't know much about you. I don't know much about your family, but at some point we'll talk about how we actually met, which was an interesting story in itself. But let's start with the first picture, which
Sure.
is this.
Yeah, that's Pops. That's James G. Clark, my dad.
Mm-hmm.
He was a real character. He was a policeman for 27 years in Nassau County,
Okay.
and he ended his career as the head of the Bureau of Special Operations, which was the SWAT team
Wow.
in Nassau County. So his forte was hostage negotiation. And he's one of those guys, he never shot his gun 27 years on the force. And he was very proud of that. But he was the kind of guy, as you can tell from that that picture, that he had a good sense of humor and just a likable guy. And he'd be able to go into situations where they'd end up walking out with the arm in arm with him and the person. He got quite a few commendations. I'm really proud of him for that.
Yeah.
Died pretty young. Died at the age of 57.
What a shame.
Yeah. Police work in those days,
Yeah, and shift work too, I think, is really hard on you.
Oh, totally. Yeah, he was always either sleeping or at work.
Yeah,
one
and
of
that's
those
hard.
things.
I've read that that's hard on your body.
Yeah.
And a lot of police officers have, cardiac issues, and they take it back to that.
And especially back in those days, they weren't really paid well. The policemen now, and deservedly so, are paid pretty well. And but back in those days, yeah, it was. It was, plus you throw the shifts, they didn't have I think the strength of unions behind them maybe. So they were just, the shifts were all over the place.
So if he was in Nassau County, where did you live? Where'd you grow up?
Grew up in Massapequa. I was born.
Massapequa. Did you know Alec Baldwin and the
I
Baldwins?
actually Alec Baldwin's dad was my football coach in high
Okay.
school. Alec was a year behind me. But we were in, no, I didn't hang out with him or anything in
Right.
those days, but we talk about it often now,
How were
whenever he stops in.
How big were the classes in your high school?
Very big. We had
Yeah.
a big school,
Yeah, Massapequa was a big area.
big area. Yeah, it was predominantly back in those days, milky white, first of all, back in those days, and all Italians and Jewish. Thus the name Matzah Pizza is what they came up with for a while. But yeah, I mean, it was a good place. It was a great place to grow up.
Well, anybody who grew up on Long Island remembers the Long Island Railroad conductor saying Massapequa. Okay, tell me about this one.
Oh, that's the big L, Loretta. That's my mom. She's also gone now, but her and my dad were together for quite a few years, and then they pretty much divorced when we got out of school. We were done with school, which is pretty common in the police world as well.
Right.
And she ended up getting remarried and moved to Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is she still alive?
No, she's not.
Okay.
Yeah, no, she passed.
Now, I love this picture because they were so glamorous in the 50s and 60s. The women always looked so glamorous, always dressed to the nines,
And
right?
they look the same.
Yes.
Very similar
very
haircut.
Similar, yep, very, very similar. And she looks very glamorous and wonderful in this
She would
picture.
appreciate that.
Yeah. So do you have, she remarried, do you have any step siblings?
I do, but none that we were out of the house, and it wasn't
were
really
older.
we
Yeah.
didn't really hang out much together. But I have three brothers.
Yeah, and I think I have a picture of that right here.
That's them. It's me in the middle, and my youngest in the front, and my oldest in the back. That's my youngest is Kevin, and the oldest is Jim. And we were in that pose because that was the pose that back in the day that the parents always put you in front of the Christmas tree
Right.
or whatever,
In age order.
So, yeah, so I don't know if we did it on purpose or if we kind of just automatically did that because we had to do it so much as
That's
a
so
kid.
cute. It's a great picture.
Yeah.
And your brothers are still around?
Yep,
You
yep.
get to see them, or?
Yeah, I do. My youngest lives in Pennsylvania now, and he's married and has 4 kids. And my older brother Jim he lives in Mastic Beach now. He's kind of a worldly guy. He's been all over the country and did a lot of traveling, and but now is kind of settled in the golden years in the Mastic area.
Okay.
But he's actually comes to LTV a lot for a lot of our
Oh,
shows.
nice.
It's an hour
Yeah,
away.
that's not
so-
that far away.
Yeah, it's an hour
Now,
away.
where in Pennsylvania? Because that can be a long way, but not always.
It's really not. It's right over it's in the Poconos.
Okay.
Beautiful area. I actually lived in that area for a couple of years before I was married. Gorgeous there. Really, really nice. But he's, after my parents got divorced, he ended up going with my mom and living in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And decided to,
Settle there.
that's the place, yeah.
Yeah. Does he come to visit, or you have to go visit him?
I just saw him a few weeks ago. His youngest daughter got married, and we were there for the wedding, the
Nice.
traditional stuff. Yeah, and
Oh, that's great.
yeah, they're doing very well there.
Yeah. Three boys. I don't know how your mother did that.
Well, that's all we knew. I was one of 3. Then
And you have 3.
now I have 3.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, tell me about this picture. This
Oh.
lovely lady.
that's the love of my life. That's Christine Clark, and that's Petey the cat down the bottom there. He's also passed. But he was a staple in the house, and that's in our backyard in East Hampton. We live in East Hampton, and I've been out here since the '80s, which was kind of at the same time when I met Christine, and we got married in 1987.
So what brought you to East Hampton?
My dad, the policeman, when he retired, he got a trailer in the Montauk Shores condominium
Oh,
in
no
Montauk.
kidding.
Yeah, which were very inexpensive at the time.
Not anymore.
And not anymore. And then I ended up moving there when I moved out here. I actually got a trailer there myself for about $30,000, and now I just kick myself.
What did the one just go for? A couple million? Or?
Couple million. Yeah, those are the ones down the water. Mine wasn't on the water, but it's a nice place. Yeah, so that's why I kind of trailed him out here and worked in some. I was in the restaurant business at the time. And
Were you?
Oh yeah.
Where did you work? In Montauk?
Yeah, I worked at the Montauk Downs for a little while. I was cooking
Okay.
there, and I worked at John's Pancake House,
Uh-huh.
and I was cooking there, and then me and my dad opened up a restaurant called Surfside Inn, which is still there.
Yes. It is.
We put the first kitchen in there, actually.
Wow.
We only lasted about a year. It just wasn't a good business situation for us, but that was kind of fun being able to work with my dad, and
Sure.
he was retired, and that's what retired cops do. They have restaurants and bars. That's what they do.
Is that right?
They're like social directors. They love doing that.
I think the restaurant business is so hard.
It really is. I talk often even with my the people that work here that you can tell the people that are in the workforce now that started in the restaurant business. You absolutely can tell. I fully believe that like in Israel, I think it's Israel, where the first 2 years out of high school or something, you got to go into service.
Right.
I think here in the United States, they should be forced to go in the restaurant business for 2 years, learn customer service, learn how to overlap, learn how to manage your time. It is a very, very tough business.
It's
But
a tough business. Yeah, I admire the fact that you did that at all. I can't even imagine.
yeah, you got to get out though. That's what I get. It's not
So,
conducive to family life, really.
no, it's not at all conducive to family life. And speaking of families, this is yours, right?
Yeah, that's Christine and with Sam the dog. He also is gone now. I'm just giving you pictures of people
What
that
kind
are
of
no
dog
longer.
is it? A boxer?
That's a boxer. Yeah,
Oh,
he
so
was old and gray there.
We had boxers growing up.
That's all we had
Yeah,
as kids.
that's all
and
we had too.
They're just so nice.
We loved boxers.
And so that's Christopher on the left. He is married now. He lives in East Hampton, and he is the manager of Inner Sleeve Records in Amagansett.
Yeah.
And that's Jackson, right after him. And he's married and lives in Connecticut, and he works for an insurance company. And on the far right is my middle son, Stephen, who is a primary school like director in Cambodia for the British Bluebird International, which is a British school
Wow.
in Phnom Penh, yeah, which he loves.
Have you been able to visit him there?
I've not visited him. He went there right when the pandemic was starting, just really kind of visiting, and then just found out that this is the place that he wants to
And
be.
you must want to go visit him there. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's a 12-hour ride,
It's a
but
long
so I was like, okay, so he'll be here for Christmas this year, but like, okay, we'll pay for your ticket,
If you come
so we
here.
don't have to do, so yeah, we get to see him about once a year.
It'd be kind of an interesting part of the world to see, living
Absolutely.
through the Vietnam era. I think that would be a fascinating place to go.
Absolutely, with all that went on there,
Yeah.
yeah, so
And we all remember that from TV growing up, and
totally.
I don't the kids nowadays can't possibly know what that was like,
It was-
watching that every night on the news.
Yeah, you had it on while you watched TV,
It was really
black and
something.
white.
Okay, so now look at you here.
Yes. That is the infamous Amagansett Parade. That's me in the middle, and that's Stephen on the left as Gumby, dressed as Gumby. Why? Because it was green. It was the Amagansett Parade, and that's my son Christopher on the right. And that's when I owned Crossroads Music in Amagansett, which we had for 10 years. And Chris was my right-hand man there working with me. And I was nominated to be the Grand Marshal that year. So, and it was the worst day ever. I don't think they had.
Doesn't look like a great day.
It was the worst weather. It was actually a nor'easter, but they would not. So we went and we marched and we got soaked, and people still marched. There was no one watching, of course, because it was terrible. But hey, I was going to do it because I was a
Of
Grand Marshal.
course, absolutely. That's an honor. I mean,
It
really.
was
That's
good, yeah.
That's a great parade.
And that was the. You'll see that I got a little green beard on there that my wife, who owns Black Sheep Knitworks
Yes, you
in
do.
the village,
She
she
made
knit me
that
she
for
knit
you.
me the beard. And she was in the parade also with a bunch of knitters. They were walking knitting, because that's the parade is kind of a goof on parades. That's how it started out. I think it's a
Yeah.
little bit more formal now. But yeah, anything that was wild and crazy, you just came and did.
Yeah, that
So,
looks like fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay, now let's talk about this one.
That's at Crossroads Music. It started out on North Main Street, and we were there for about 5 years, and then we moved over to Amagansett Square, right across from the Talk House.
Right.
And it was great. It was a really, really great experience for me and for my family. The whole intent was, I had been working prior to that in New York City. And I was commuting to New York City 3 days a week from East Hampton, and then 2 days a week to Boston. I would actually drive to
Wow.
the airport, fly to Boston in the morning, and fly home in the evening. It was actually faster to get to Boston than it was to New York City, because I used to take the bus in the morning. And so then I was doing that, and I was working in the city, and then 9/11 happened. And its impact on people and, on me was no different. I actually worked in the building that was right next door to the World Trade Center. I wasn't there that morning. I was actually in the airport on a business trip in Jacksonville, Florida. I was on my way back. I was actually traveling to the airport to get a plane back to New York City. They turned me around when I got to the airport and said, "No, you can't. Something's going on." Got back to the hotel I was staying at, and I saw what happened. And then, which was pretty disturbing, because I couldn't get home. No one knew what was going
Right.
on. And I was stuck outside. So then I just jumped on an Amtrak the next day And I don't know if you remember, but the trains were going like, because no one knew what was going on, it was going like 10 miles an hour, so I got to see the backyard of America
Yes.
from Florida up to New York City.
How many hours did that take?
I think it was 27 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was in it wasn't a sleeping car or anything. I was sitting there and, just watching out the window, just wondering. And then I remember when there's this place in New Jersey where it's across, you can actually see where the World Trade Center was, and it was still smoking when it came into
I
view.
remember that.
And the whole car, I didn't realize, but I was in a car with a lot of people from Cantor Fitzgerald who lost a lot of people in the
Yes.
World Trade Center. And everybody was crying and sobbing and whatever. And so we finally got into the city, and then I had to make my way back to the airport on Long Island. It was a whole rigmarole, but I just, it was one of those things that, helped me change my mind and say, this is, what am I doing? I need a little bit more contact with my family. I need a little bit more contact with my community, and that's what I wanted to do. So that's came along, Crossroads Music, to try to open that up and connect, really connect. And I think we did over a 10-year period. We had some good times. We didn't make any money.
But you made lots of connections?
We made a lot
Lots
of
of
connections,
friends?
yeah. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that happening first. Everything's a stepping stone to something else, right?
Right.
And so that's pretty much what I did, and decided that, New York City is not for me. I'm gonna be out here where the family is and in learning a little bit more about the community. It's been great.
So you moved out to Montauk. You were married at that point?
No, I was not
Okay.
married.
So you moved out to Montauk, then you met your wife,
Yes.
got married, and then you decided to find a house together, and you stayed in
We got
East
in the
Hampton?
affordable housing program.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
My daughter is in that too.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be able to afford to live
Yeah.
out here like my kids are going through right now.
I know all about it.
Yeah, totally. And I lucked out and was Pat Trunzo pulled the key out of the little bingo machine or whatever they were rolling them around in, and from there I was in the restaurant business there first, and then I decided, okay, again, like I said, it's not conducive to family life. You do way too much partying in those days, right? And so I got a job with the phone company, and I traveled into Manhattan and everything else, but yeah,
Well, I'm not sure people fully appreciate that program that the town has done.
yeah.
They've done some wonderful things for affordable housing, workforce housing, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And it was a godsend for my daughter and her family. They were looking to leave East Hampton.
It's just so important even now, more so now even, it's a crisis.
It is a crisis.
My oldest son got a trailer in the East Hampton trailer park, and that's where he lives with his wife, who works in the school system. She works for East Hampton High School. And as I said, Chris is at Indersleeve Records, and he wouldn't be able to afford it if they hadn't kind of fallen into this opportunity there. And Jackson, he my youngest, he moved out, to Connecticut because he couldn't afford anything.
Yeah.
And Stephen, I just can't hold him back.
Yeah, it's very hard for our kids, for sure.
Yeah.
We only have one more picture, and that's the lovely Christine again.
Yes, Christine, who owns Black Sheep Knitworks in the village.
Beautiful little shop.
Yeah, tiny shop, and she'll tell you she does it to support her habit. It's not a big money maker, but it's a fun endeavor for her, and she meets a lot of people. She's really good at what she does. She's very, very. I think you actually go in there
I
sometime.
have, yeah. Yeah, I do.
She has mentioned that to me. Yeah.
She's got beautiful yarns in there.
Yeah,
Beautiful stuff.
and she's into dyeing them herself now. She's
Really?
doing the whole thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, my basement's now like a laboratory.
So you and I met doing something really interesting, or not met, but we knew who we were,
Yeah.
but we hadn't really spent any time and gotten to know each other during the pandemic.
Yep,
Because we both volunteered to work at the town inoculation clinic,
that's right.
right?
Yep,
And that was not far from here, and the town was getting people through as quickly as they could to get them inoculated from COVID. And you and I ended up in the same room
that's right.
and enjoyed spending the day together
It was
there.
great.
We had a good time,
It
right?
was a good time.
Yeah, you tend to connect with people pretty quickly, you know.
I always thought it was impressive. I remember about that day that you forgot your glasses. And you called your husband to bring the glasses over to, and it's not right around the corner, but
Right.
it was, and I was very impressed, like, that he didn't come in like a raging bull with your glasses
No.
because, I learned a lot from that. Okay, so that's the way you're supposed to do it. Okay, that's good.
No,
You
he
did a
was
good job.
very kind. He came and brought me my reading glasses because I had to be able to read. And the second clinic that I worked at, I actually was doing the computer
Right.
and putting people in. I don't think you were in that room that time.
No.
You were in the first time. And that was even more stressful because I had to be typing as fast as I could and get people's information into the computer. And but it was great to do that. I mean, it felt so good, right, to be able to get people vaccinated and out and, feel, they all felt so good. They were so happy to be there and,
You felt like you're being part of the solution.
uh-huh,
Whatever the solution we thought was the right thing at the
Right.
time, whatever. But yeah, no, it was a great feeling.
yeah, it was great. It was a great feeling and it was nice to, nobody was upset if they had to wait. I mean, everybody was just happy to be there
Yeah.
and, and
Yeah, I
that
don't
there
remember
was-
one cross word
No,
being said,
not
yeah.
at all. And the town did a great job, I thought, putting that all together. And
Yeah, Peter and the team really stepped up on that one
that
for
was
sure.
great. That was a tough time. I hope we never have to say anything like that again. It
Yeah,
was
that's
horrible.
for sure, yeah.
Horrible. And it's easy to forget. It's very easy to forget.
It's really easy to forget. I always thought that, it's funny, I hadn't spoken about the 9/11 thing in
Mm-hmm.
a very long time. And, you think that that's always going to be top of mind, and then you think about what we've lived through in our lifetime, right? And
Right.
at our age, that, with the wars and 9/11, the pandemic, and, it's like, it's almost like you're waiting for what's next, and
Yeah.
not what we hope it's
Yeah.
not, right?
I know I tell my kids all the time, you can't even imagine what the late 60s was like. You cannot imagine if you did not live through
No, it's
it.
true. I think about that, right? And you got Woodstock, and you got a man on the moon, and you got
Yes, all that
all
stuff.
the Vietnam War coming to an end,
In
and
the early 60s with the assassinations and it was
yeah.
great music. I mean, wonderful music came out of that era. The best music, I think,
I agree too.
and I love the music from the late 60s, mid and late 60s.
I still listen
It's
to
the
it.
best. I do too. It's the best. So what do you think you're going to stay here forever? You're going to be in East Hampton forever, or you think someday you're going to retire to Florida like a lot of people?
No, Florida, I just don't like the political atmosphere
Yeah.
of the southern states. I don't think I could live there. But no, I think I'll be here. Because, we've considered, like during the pandemic when all the prices went up and we can get so much money for the
Right.
house now. It's like, my wife's like, where are we gonna go? What are we gonna do? We're gonna go and make new friends or then you don't really know about the healthcare systems and this and that, and it's not great out here either, I know, but we know what we got at least,
Right.
and we know that.
Well, I learned a long time ago, especially being in public life as I was for quite a while, people prefer the devil they know, the
Yes,
devil they don't.
yeah, that's
People
true,
do not like change.
yeah.
So, this is the devil we know. We're not, we're not going anywhere.
My wife doesn't like the heat anyway, and so she would wanna move to New England. I'm not really crazy about the cold, so we're
Snow,
kind of, yeah.
And it is not a bad climate here.
No, it's great. I mean, it's wonderful, and you
I
just
don't
gotta,
like the heat either,
yeah,
but
you just gotta get used to. What bothers me most, like it does, everybody else, is traffic.
traffic,
Then you realize, okay, all those people are coming here, but you live here. You get to live here.
right.
This is where you are all the time. What a beautiful place,
Yeah.
and I'm so lazy that I don't, take advantage near enough of, what we have out here. Just going around to, art galleries or
Right.
even the beach,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. You take things for granted. But LTV has been a great, since you took over LTV especially, has really become a great venue for entertainment, and which really never was before. I mean, that's a new kind of,
No, it was one of the things that drew me to this place is that, there was so much opportunity. And, we saw that and, we put together a really good team. I get a lot of credit, but, we have a very strong team here of people that really enjoy what they're doing. Because I'm a big advocate of that. I'm not a real tough, hands-on type of manager. But if you're not happy in your job, I'm gonna ask you why are you working here?
right,
Every job is temporary, right?
Right.
It's a stepping stone to something else.
right.
And, but you gotta be happy with what you're
Yes,
doing.
absolutely, and you've got a great staff. I mean, they work really well, they do a great job, and the programming and everything here, I think, is wonderful.
Well, thank you.
I mean, I've always enjoyed the community access part of it, but now being able to come here for concerts, we come for the symphony in the fall and the,
A lot of
you know,
plays, a lot of
a lot of
plays.
plays, a lot of shows, it's great. It's really become a really wonderful venue for the community, I think, so.
Yeah, and that's our goal is, we're the communication vehicle, and whether you're communicating, broadcasting and sending it out on the channel, or you're just communicating to people face to face through plays or play readings or forums or, that's our mission. That's what we're supposed to
Well, you're
do.
doing a great job, and we're running out of time, so I want to get to my last question, which
Sure.
is, as you know, I always ask the question that James Lipton asked from inside the Actors Studio. If heaven exists, what do you want to hear God say when you get to the pearly gates? You've got 10 seconds.
The Mets are gonna win the World Series eventually soon.
Okay. But you won't be there to see it.
I won't be there to see it, just from above.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mike. Thank you so much to LTV for providing community access for us here on the East End. Thank you to my sponsors, Whalen and Filer Attorneys in Amagansett. Thank you all for joining us, and please join us again for another episode of Let's Talk.